Time to turn to our insiders now for their take on the hot political topics of the day. Joining us tonight from our Charlotte studio, Republican consultant Alfredo Rodriguez, and here in our Raleigh studio, Democratic consultant Perry Woods. Gentlemen, good to see you. Welcome back to the program. As we've been talking about, it's complicated in some nature, but the story of this Cambridge Analytica doing business with Thom Tillis and the Republican Party, and now they're facing all this scrutiny. Alfredo, is this a big deal or much ado about nothing?
I think it's still a lot to be determined. Let me go ahead and debunk anything that my friend and colleague Perry might say that's of the nefarious nature. But, the state Democratic Party chairman has already said that there are too many questions unanswered. There's too much that we don't know to come to any conclusion yet on what took place. And the fact of the matter is that, the digital campaign superiority has been going on since 2006, 2007. Democrats were clearly in the lead with regards to digital campaigning during the 2008, 2010, and even 2012 elections. And Republicans now have surpassed them and run a better digital operation with regards to campaigns than Democrats do. And so, this is just a new medium for campaigns that both parties are competing.
Perry, I'm sure you'll agree.
Well, no, actually, first off, it wasn't Cambridge wasn't doing digital work for Thom Tillis or the Republican parties. They were helping them with mail. But what they did is stole information from Facebook. And to quote the guy from Cambridge Analytica was it's not about facts, but on fear. And so what they did is they used Facebook to profile people to find out what they were scared of, likely Ebola at the time in 2014, and use that to generate mail targeting those people to try to up their turnout.
Yeah, although I will say on their case study on their website with Thom Tillis, they talk about using her Senator Then Hagen missing armed services.
Missing a vote on armed services. But
which
regardless,
was no secret.
But the point being is, the Republicans in the state, from gerrymandering to voter suppression laws to basically, admittedly, playing on people's fear rather than the substance of their ideas.
But do you really think that the Republicans, because one of Wayne Goodwin's questions was we need to know their involvement.
Sure.
I mean, you hire firms all the time that do things. I mean, do you really think the Republican Party and Thom Tillis were in on it?
No. And nor do I think that Thom Tillis was plied with Ukrainian hookers or anything like that. No, I don't think that's the case at all. But I do think that they said, hey, they can help us figure out who we can scare the bejesus of to show up and vote. And that's what they did.
Okay, Alfredo, so the question here then is you guys, I mean, both sides use this data right now, and we can talk about how much data should be available to people, but how responsible are campaigns for the companies that they hire?
Well, I think they're clearly responsible to make sure that the folks that they're hiring aren't doing anything illegal or aren't doing anything out of bounds. But the fact of the matter is that micro-targeting has been going on since the early 2000s with direct mail, now with digital advertising, and this is nothing new.
But the question of how they secure the data is in question here, not using the data.
Sure, and private companies have been selling consumer data to campaigns for a very, very long time. At first it was, what sort of magazines do you subscribe to? And then once the boom of Amazon and online shopping, where do you go to, buy your groceries or shop for your clothes or look for a new car? All that data has been sold by private companies for years upon years upon years. So this is nothing new. And trying to find out, voter habits and voter patterns is not something new, and it's something that campaigns have used. Now, to be honest, I think that this is an egregious act and something that needs further looking into on Facebook. Facebook, came onto the scene and was trying to figure out a way to make a buck. And they realized that we've got all these millions upon millions and now over 1 billion people on our platform. How can we go ahead and monetize that? And they have been the ones that have been, nefarious and going ahead and selling that off for profit.
Yep.
Well, there's a kumbaya moment for you. I agree with you, Alfredo, that Facebook does have some serious questions that they need to answer, and that is part of it. Now, Alfred's right, micro-targeting, and we voluntarily give up some information about ourselves. But that said, what is clear about what even the people from Cambridge Analytica said, if you look at the video of one of their main guys, is we don't use facts, we use fear. And to me, I mean, that's not a new thing for politics either.
I was going to say, you may not like it, but it is a strategy.
Right. That's not new. That's not new either.
All right, one more question about sort of this data mining that's going on in campaigns. Perry, how much is too much, do you think? I mean, campaigns want every little bit that they can, obviously, for an advantage, but it's some of it's creepy, it feels like, to just the average person.
Again, people.
There's no easy answer.
There's no easy answer. Oftentimes, I do think campaigns get too cute. And it's always about fighting the next one, not the last one. But we as people are voluntarily giving up immense amounts of information willingly about ourselves. You know, privacy is almost non-existent anymore, and we're voluntarily doing it. So, you know, at some point, though, when we get to where we're picking our voters rather than they're picking us, and we're tailoring messages just to, silo people, it's a danger to our democracy, and we as citizens, frankly, have a responsibility to look beyond it.
And Alfredo puts a lot of responsibility on companies like Facebook, right, to be careful what they do with their data.
Sure. Like Perry said, privacy of individuals is a hard thing to contain. With credit cards and online shopping and a whole host of other things that we do on the internet, it is difficult to remain anonymous. And campaigns are always seeking an upper hand on the other campaign. And the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are always seeking the upper hand on one another. And this is now part of it.
All right, so don't hold your breath, folks, but the Board of Elections and Ethics Board, we have a board. It's meeting tomorrow, at least 8 of its 9 members. And that's going to be one of their core functions here, is to get a 9th unaffiliated member. There's 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats that were chosen from the list by the governor. Perry, how do you think they picked this 9th member?
It's not going to be easy, and the idea that this is some kind of bipartisan or nonpartisan board is belied by the fact by who was nominated. I mean, I think we talked about this previously. The fact that Four Eggers, who is a textbook study and a voter suppressor from Watauga County, is on that board, doesn't give me a lot of confidence in
Although
it.
the governor had other options, he picked him at the end.
But the thing is, this board might be the best idea since sliced bread. But how we've gotten here is not how good governing happens. You don't try to pass something right after losing election. You don't attach this to a bill to fix problems with schools, how many seats we have in schools. This should have been handled in a long session rather than forced through in this way. And now we have a cluster. One of the problems that we've been having is there's a number of residency challenges around the state. And because we haven't had this board, they've been unable to address them and deal with these things. So we're to the point now where the elections do have to happen. It's a good thing, I guess, that we have a board, and it'll be interesting to see how this nonpartisan piece works, because that one person will probably, in many ways, control what happens with the board. And we got there to prevent gridlock, because if you have 4-4, much like the Federal Elections Commission, nothing ever happens there.
Yeah, and to that point, Alfredo, there was a letter that was sent to the state board from, I think it was a county board, a Republican county board, that wanted to delay this almost to make sure that there was a good list and moving forward. I mean, is there a lot of pressure, do you think, on these members on either side to make sure that this unaffiliated person either leans one way or the other?
Well, first, the delay has occurred because of the court challenges that have been produced by Governor Cooper. And then I would say, we can't get any fairer than, 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats, and then, 1 affiliated or 1 libertarian. I think that process is going to play itself out. Is there a perfect way to pick that 9th member? Probably not. But Governor Cooper was given names by each respective party. He made his selections, and so now let's allow this board to go ahead and pick the 9th member and move on.
We'll see what happens, gentlemen. Good to see you as always. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Time for one more break. When we return, the State Historical Commission set to hear public comment about what should be done with Confederate statues in the Capitol lawn. A panel of experts talks about that when we return.